Hello again, witches, seekers, and friends, and welcome to the Fat Feminist Witch Podcast, the show where we do a little ranting, raving, and wand waving. I'm your host, Paige, and together we are going to explore magic and spirituality, social justice, the psychic realm, and most importantly, bewitching the elements. Hey witches, thank you so much for tuning in today. I have a special guest today, so this is episode 73 of the podcast, and it is an interview with Gabriela Herstik, the author of Inner Witch, A Modern Guide to the Ancient Craft, as well as the High Priestess column for High Times magazine. She has a new book called Bewitching The Elements that came out earlier this year. I loved Bewitching the Elements. I thought it was such a great way of exploring each individual element and bringing them all together. Each chapter focuses on a specific element, but then it takes you through all sorts of different exercises and beliefs and thoughts and ways to work with that element. They're all a little bit different. So we have tarot readings. She talks about different goddesses that are associated with these elements or that represent and embody the energy of the element, as well as talking a little bit about the astrology associated with each. At the end of the book, after you've explored all 5 of the elements individually, because there is an entire chapter on spirit, she talks about bringing them all together, how to work with all of the elements, how to embrace them in your practice and in your ritual work, how to work them in there. I thought it was fantastic. It's really fun to read. I love her voice, and if you have read any of her books or her columns before, if you follow her on social media, you know that she's got a very unique voice that comes through a lot in the way that she writes and the way she expresses herself on social media. So I was really excited to see that same kind of voice is there all throughout Bewitching the Elements. So as you'll hear in the interview, she just has this tone and this air about her that she really does care about other people, and she's really supportive and she's really encouraging and she's very enthusiastic. That came through the book, and I found it really inspirational. Every single chapter I tried out at least one thing. I loved the breathing exercises. These are probably my favorite thing that I found throughout the book is the breathing exercises. Super, super cool. I loved the tarot readings as well, and I tried both the water and air ones, and I loved them. I am not usually a fan of the air element. It's kind of my element that I have the most trouble with. But Gabriela is an air sign. She's an Aquarius. And the way she wrote about the element of air throughout this chapter, it kind of changed my mind about the way that I think of air. I had these thoughts that it was very cold. When I think of the Queen of Swords in the tarot, I've always thought of her as very, very cold. And as you'll hear in the interview, Gabby is not cold at all. So while she is definitely, this Aquarian air sign, there's no coldness. There's none of that kind of sharp steel so much. Although she does work with swords a lot. Super cool. By the way, the photography in the book is really fun. That's another thing you might know about Gabby if you follow her, is that she takes a lot of incredible pictures of her practice and herself. I love it. So it just made me think of the air sign a little bit differently. And when I was finished the chapter, I realized that I was excited to work with the air sign more. And since I finished the book, I noticed that when I get swords cards in my tarot readings, before I used to get this little pang of anxiety, oh, not one of these guys. I don't feel that quite so much anymore in my own readings, and I hadn't really noticed it until I went back and looked at how different my interpretations of especially the Queen of Swords were before and after I read the book. So to me, this is definitely a 5 crystal ball out of 5 book. I really enjoyed it. It is not completely secular because Gabby is a practitioner with she has a practice where she's very devoted to the goddess Venus. But I love stories and imagery and art about the goddesses. So I never felt, I never felt like it wasn't for me when she shares about these goddesses. And the ones that she chose for each of the elements were very interesting. They might not be the first ones that you think about. So I learned a little something new about these goddesses as well. So I really enjoyed Bewitching the Elements, and I very much loved this interview with Gabby. This was such a good conversation. And afterwards, some of that loneliness that I've been feeling throughout the quarantine was just like a little bit less, just a little bit smoother. I felt really good. And yeah, I hope you guys check out Bewitching the Elements, and I really hope you guys enjoy this interview and check her out on social media and online. You can find her website as GabrielaHerstik.com. So that's GabrielaHerstik.com. And her Twitter and Instagram handle is both Gabby Herstik. Gabby is Gaby. So I hope you guys check her out and check out the Bewitching the Elements, which is currently on sale. So without further ado, here is my interview with Gabriela Herstik. Again, thank you so much for coming on the show today. I'm really excited.
Oh, and it's for having me.
It's nice to like put a voice to the Twitter voice.
Oh my God, I know. I was just thinking about that. I was like, I don't even think I know what Paige sounds like. So it's so good to hear your voice, even though it's through the ether.
Yeah, through the magic of the internet. Not that if we were in the same city, we could even like actually meet face to face.
Oh, I wish I could give you a hug.
I wish I could give almost anyone a hug at this point.
Right? Oh my God. I haven't had a hug in like 2 months. I'm dying. It's horrible.
I didn't even think I really liked hugs, but now I'm like, I don't think I've like made physical contact with another human being. Like, it's very odd.
Yeah, I totally feel that. We're not meant to be this like isolated. Like I feel like it really is like unnatural. We're meant to be in community with other people, and I'm just grateful that we have the internet right now, and at least we can have a cyber community. Because like thinking about this during like 1918, when you're like stuck at home and have to like write people letters, sounds
oh my goodness
so much worse. So
I have been so grateful for the internet, and even for like social media with all of its stuff that you can criticize. I'm just so grateful to always have people to talk to, like lately now in time zones all over the place.
So real. And I feel like it's just such an age of Aquarius and innovation, and like it really I feel like everything exists in polarity, just as like there's horrible, scary, terrible parts of social media. It also is such a way to connect. Like I made some of my best friends on social media, and like especially now it's like my lifeline to not being lonely as much as I would be without it.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel exactly the same way. I was like just thinking, I'm so glad that we already have all of this going. Mm-hmm. Like I'm so glad this could have happened even, I don't know, 10 years ago, and we wouldn't be able to connect as well as we can right now.
Right. Like
weird things to be grateful for.
Exactly. I think that's the thing too, like finding what we can be grateful for is just it helps, at least for me, it really helps me find like my center in moments of anxiety or panic or loneliness. And I really
absolutely,
I'm definitely like feel like I'm still figuring out my boundaries with social media, but like right now I'm like, it doesn't even fucking matter if I'm on the internet for 8 hours a day, because like I literally don't have any other way to interact with people. So like
right, like that's the world right now.
Yeah.
It's the whole world. It's I always say I'm not going to like talk about the pandemic as soon as I'm talking to someone, and this always happens.
Yeah. But it's also like this kind of weird thing where we're able to have empathy and understanding for literally every other person in this planet. Like, I don't think we've ever collectively, at least like in this, this country where we haven't had that kind of like understanding. Like, we're all literally trauma bonding together. So it's like, like talk about it, bond over our loneliness, and then we can, like move past it and find the other things. But que sera, sera, whatever will be, man.
Yeah, it's odd. I feel very connected to a lot of people through how stressed I am about being kept apart.
Yeah, exactly. I'm so glad you found a new apartment, though. I know that that was an ordeal, and I'm glad that you are safe and sound and settled. I hope.
I am. Thank you so much. I actually I really like my apartment. I was really homesick at first,
Yay!
but I really like it
Oh,
inside my apartment.
I love that. I love that. I'm so happy for you.
Thanks. Yeah, it's super exciting. Okay, so I want to talk about your new book about bewitching the elements. I really, really liked this book. Like I have all of these like all these notes and
Oh,
like post-its everywhere. Um,
oh.
so for those listening, the book is all about working with all of the elements, separately and together.
Mhm.
What is it that led you to focus on the elements themselves in a whole book?
Yeah, so first off, thank you for that beautiful compliment. I literally underline and dog ear all my books. So like knowing somebody else is doing that to my book makes my soul and heart very, very happy. So thank you. Honestly, so after my first book came out, I knew that I wanted to write another book, and my publisher wanted me to write something that was gonna be quote unquote empowering and like rituals and stuff that would help people feel at peace during these turbulent times.
Yeah,
And it's like such a big, like that's such a big umbrella. But I really feel like as much as I chose the elements as a medium in which to explore these rituals of self empowerment, I feel like they chose me. I really just kind of like, I just remember sitting in my old apartment one day and thinking about it, and I was like, what am I going to write a book about? And then like they just came to me. And it's something that I didn't really expect, but made a lot of sense. In my own ritual practice, I really do work with all of the elements. And it's really important for me for my work to be accessible. Like, I never want somebody to have to buy a ton of things or to like think they need all these things to like be a witch. Like, that is just,
yeah,
obviously it sucks. Is like you have to buy my book, but like also you can go to the library and read it. Like, I feel like this will get into the hands of whoever it needs to be in. And for me, the elements are just we already all have our own relationships to these things. Even if we're not necessarily using them in a magical context or aware of it, just naturally by existing, since the elements are the building blocks of our life, of energy, of all of the different things. We already have this kind of foundational practice with them, whether it's just because we're washing our hands or we're spending time in the sunshine or we're going on a walk and feeling the wind and, appreciating
yeah,
the flowers. Like, the elements are already woven into our lives and you don't need anything to connect with them. I mean, unfortunately, it sucks that like there are people out there that don't have running water or don't have clean water, but for the most part, most
right.
of us have, we wash our hands every day. We're drinking water. We're looking at the sun. We're spending time under the moon. So I really feel like the elements transcend cultures, they transcend religions, and they're already something that we're familiar with. So it just made sense to kind of run with that, because you don't need anything else except your own mind and your awareness to really connect to these different energies.
Yeah, I was really excited to see how varied all of the different topics within each chapter were. There are a ton of different ways to work with the earth element. And as I was
Mhm.
reading it, I was like, wow, like this really can apply to anyone, no matter what type of earth, representations you have access to. Um, Likewise, there was so many ways that I work with the elements without thinking about it
Mhm.
that I noticed throughout your book. Like it made me pay a lot more attention to the elements in my practice already.
Oh my God, that's such a beautiful compliment. And that means that my intention, yeah, I feel like that just like so validating of the intention that I had for this book. So I really appreciate that. I do feel like it's really just like a reframing of the practices we already have. I know, like in therapy, my I not the therapist I'm seeing now, but before she was like, there's like three or four emotions like mad, glad, sad, something else, and like once you kind of have that like framework, you're able to apply it to like a bunch of different things. And I feel like with the elements, it's like once you understand their signature, once you understand what they're telling you, it really is just like such a way in which we can make sure we're finding balance, really honor what we need in that moment. Like we're already all, most of us as witches are already working with elements. And I think that sometimes just bringing that intention and seeing things a little bit differently can be a really expansive way to level up your magic.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that was definitely level up your magic is just like the best way to say it. That's exactly what I was just thinking, because it was, I remember kind of near the end of the book when you're talking about casting a circle and inviting in the elements. This is something that I used to do all the time. This was like a regular part of witchy practice when I was more Wiccan inspired. And it's something that I was like, oh, I don't need to do that so much anymore. But I got like re-excited about it. Like I was like, I might actually like cast a circle next time. That sounds fun.
Yeah, sorry.
Go ahead.
Well, when I started practicing, I was also identifying as Wiccan, and even in my own practice, like I work a lot with the elements, but I don't even really. It's like something that I don't do as often as I should. No shoulds,
Yeah.
but I definitely understand that that feeling, and I'm really honored that I could help kind of reinvigorate that practice for you.
Yeah, it was a cool way to see a lot of just like witchy practices that I have always known, and just see them in a different way, put them together in a slightly different way.
Oh, I love that. Thank you.
Something I really liked about the book was finding out which element you relate with. There was the quiz for your elemental makeup. I loved that. So I wanted to ask if you have an element that is most kind of dominant in your practice or your kind of overall personality, and what it is about that element that really either speaks to you or speaks through you.
Oh, it's such a beautiful question. And it's interesting because like I definitely heavily identify with my birth chart. I have a lot of water and air placements, and in the inner planets, I don't have any earth placements. The only earth placements I have are Uranus and Neptune and Capricorn, and I don't have any fire sign placements. So I really identify with, I definitely feel very watery. I have goddess, divine feminine worship is a big, big, big part of my practice. So I definitely feel like my heart and love are like the center of everything. So I definitely identify with water, but I also am like super air sign. I definitely forget how air sign I am until I start like reading and studying and like taking classes, and I'm like, I'm so horny for knowledge, and like definitely feel that, and like I love being a smartass, and like definitely identify with the energy of the sword. So those are two that are, I feel like, very natural to me. And I also like, but I have to work too, or I'm aware that I need to make sure that I'm grounded and protected, and I do a lot of work around that because I don't have a lot of earth placements. I'm not smoking weed right now, but when I would always say that I wear red and smoke weed because I don't have any earth or fire in my chart, and that's like my way to balance it. And I definitely identify with fire. Like I definitely feel very fiery, and I just started using whole sign calculation for my birth chart. And that, instead of having a fourth house stellium, Aquarius is my fifth house, which is like associated with the sign of Leo, which makes a lot of sense because I have my sun, Venus, and Mars all in Aquarius in the fifth house. So I feel like that like adds some fire to my life. But I I'm definitely the most inspired by the element of fire, but I feel like I am very true to my birth chart, and like air and water and that kind of energy really is present without me even noticing it.
Yeah. That's funny. I feel the same way, where I really identify with those elements in my birth chart. It's just now that I know so much about astrology, it's like it's impossible to kind of separate it.
Oh yeah.
But the flip side of that is that sometimes when we get so into like our element, some of the other elements can be kind of challenging to work with, to bring in, to actually find balance with. Do you have an element that you find is really challenging for you to include in your practice or your life?
That's a great question. And I really do think for me it's earth.
Yeah.
It's earth and also surprisingly air, because I, for a long time, wasn't really like, obviously, like I'm breathing because I'm alive, but I wasn't aware of my breath. And because of that, I definitely felt um, like I wasn't really embodied in myself and in my practice. I really think that the breath is the bridge between the earth and air, the body and the mind. And it wasn't until I started, like when I was writing my first book, I had somebody I was seeing, my mom, and my therapist all within a week tell me that I wasn't breathing and noticing that I wasn't breathing. Because of that, I set literally 5 alarms on my phone every day. It was for months, and the alarm would go off, and I'd take time to I'd take a deep breath and just focus on my breathing. And I set the alarms for like 4:44, 5:55, 11:11, 2:22 to kind of incorporate that energy into it, and like that really literally retrained my brain into like breathing. And now I also practice breath work every day. And that has been a really big change, because now I just like notice my breath when if I'm stressed, like I'll notice I just take a deep breath, or that I just focus on my breathing. So even though like I am very airy, again, it went into that, the end of being like too much in my head, too much of that. So I definitely have to work with balancing that. And the element that I definitely feel doesn't come as naturally to me is earth. I practice grounding meditations every single day. I, use different rituals like making tea and doing workouts and moving my body as a way to really feel connected and grounded in myself. And that has, with my grounding meditations and just taking walks in nature and putting my palms on trees and touching flowers, has been a beautiful way for me to kind of reconnect with that element, because I definitely feel like it is very easy for me to be a space cadet teacher about like a million things, or just being like stoned and forgetful. So
Yeah.
and I also work with, I know that you also have a work practice with cannabis, and I definitely like when I'm disconnected from my body and just like very tense, eating an edible and just like really working with cannabis in that way makes it such a difference in how I'm connected to my body. So I love working
Yeah.
with sacred plant medicine, whether it's cannabis or psilocybin, to kind of recenter that intention.
I've found the same thing when it comes to edibles specifically, because
Mm-hmm.
I'm someone that smokes regularly. So when I take an edible, I feel very, very grounded in my body, like very in tune with what it is I'm feeling, and also very like calm about it. It's a
Yeah.
totally different kind of experience. It's really interesting.
I totally feel that. I like honestly stopped smoking weed because I smoked so much that I gave myself bronchitis. So
Ugh.
I like, but you know what? Everything in divine timing, let me tell you, was because I stopped smoking like 5 months ago, maybe more, maybe less. Time doesn't exist in my brain, but it was a few
Time
months,
does not exist
right?
anymore at
It's
all.
not real. We made her up. But I stopped smoking a few months before COVID started, and I'm so glad
Mm.
I stopped when I did. And like, I went to a pulmonologist, and have that, because I'm like, like, goddess bless, because it would have been even worse and more scary if my lungs weren't happy. And because of that, I had to find an edible brand I like, and I found them. And the other, like, I'll smoke as like a treat, like on Beltane Beltana on May 1st. I had a joint as a treat because I was like, it's a holiday, I want to celebrate. And I totally noticed that like I love the ritual of smoking. I love like the rolling of the joint, grinding the flowers, and pulling the smoke through my lips. Like I definitely have like a vague smoking fetish. But I noticed that when I smoked, like the high just was like not the same. It made me more anxious. I didn't feel as grounded in my body. So, like I'm nothing is perfect. Like I love the ritual, but I'm just like really glad I found edibles, especially right now. Like they really help me just relax my shoulders and be present in my body. And like, I feel the tension and anxiety and just like the stress that have pushed into the back of my mind and am not thinking about because I need to function, like just like melt away. So
Yeah, I find edibles are really great for things like just general kind of everyday anxiety and depression.
yeah,
And like right now, they really just, for lack of like, it takes the edge off.
yeah,
Like it just makes everything feel a little bit softer. So I just feel a little
yeah.
more capable of dealing with everything.
That's such a beautiful way of pointing of doing that. And I like even just like taking an edible and then going on a walk around my neighborhood and touching trees and seeing flowers. It really is just like I'm just very, very grateful that the earth provides us with such incredible medicine. She never ceases to inspire me and amaze me.
Absolutely. Oh, that's so lovely. And what a great way. And again, that's not necessarily something I would instantly think like this will be a great way to connect with the earth element. But now
Mhm.
I'm thinking about that so much more. I
Yeah.
feel like I'm seeing the elements more kind of everywhere, like noticing them a little bit more.
I love that so much. That is just, I have goosebumps. That makes me so happy. And, I feel like you totally probably get this, but it's like even the process of writing a book changes your practice and changes how you
Yeah.
look at those things. And like, I seriously feel like ever since I wrote this book, I have been just like so much more aware of the elements, even like, in the tarot and like my studies of the tree of life and my own like understanding of what I need in the moment. Cause it's like, okay, well, I'm feeling really anxious right now. So, like, I know this is kind of like an airy moment. Like, what can I do to help me get back into my body? Oh, like, I can work with the earth element. Like, it just helps you kind of create containers for your experiences. And it's like,
Yeah.
not that anything is that black and white, but like, I know for me, it really like writing this book and thinking about the elements in that way has really like opened my eyes to all the different ways that the universe is woven magic in our day to day.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Um, I love daily, like thinking about the elements associated with each day, uh,
Yeah.
which is why I really like recording on Wednesdays because it's Mercury's day, the air sign. I've got my air sign crystals out here.
Oh, I love
Uh, do you take in like the elements of every day? Do you take that into account when you decide what to do or what you're wearing or
Ooh, beautiful
which
question.
stones to grab
I'm sorry?
or what stones to work with that day or anything like that?
Ooh, absolutely. So I definitely like am aware of the planetary associations and do my best to plan my week around that. Like I still like having like Friday, Venus Day is my favorite, which, I feel like there's kind of like some of the days have like the elements kind of are different. Like Mercury is very airy. Jupiter has more of like or Thursday, which is Jupiter's day, has kind of like an airy and what I feel like Jupiter's kind of a mix, but I
Jupiter is
definitely
kind of a mix, I
right?
think.
Like kind of like earthy and expansive, but also like I don't know. I love
Very airy as well.
yeah, exactly, right? Like it's interesting
Yeah.
to kind of think about them in that way, but I definitely do plan my week um around the different planetary correspondences. Like Friday's my favorite day to like do anything Venusian, take baths, treat myself. Before COVID hit, Friday was always a day that I took photos for my High Times column or just like dressed up and took photos and that kind of stuff. And I definitely am like always kind of thinking about it like on, Sunday, which is ruled by the sun, which is a very fiery energy, but also has this kind of like grounded energy because I feel like, the sun helps us grow and takes care of the plants. Like I always clean my house on Sundays and I will cleanse with sacred smoke and really just like, kind of do the actions that are going to nurture me in the long run. So I'm always thinking about the different days. Like today's, like you mentioned, like Mercury Day. So I'm like, I'm currently writing a list of all the books I'm reading on Patreon and like just, it definitely, I feel like knowing those planetary correspondences like really helps me to honor the flow of my of my work week of my week because like I do work for myself so it's like I I like having Saturday and Sunday to myself. Saturday is usually my day to like not do any work, but I just like studying most of the day Saturday and like writing, and I attend a weekly lodge meeting on Saturday. So I like sometimes I'll spend like most of the day like in ritual or like studying, but like which is so Saturnian, like Saturnian, and I have a lot of Aquarius placements. I also have a couple Capricorn placements, so like Saturn is a big part of my birth chart. So it's kind of an interesting, more personal way to like get to know the elements for sure, and the planets too, and how they kind of interact.
Yeah, I'm the same way, especially when I started, when I started working for myself and I really had to work every day. It wasn't just a hobby.
Yeah,
I really started using, those daily planetary associations to kind of plan out my week. And I
absolutely.
found that that was really, really helpful. Like, I love having, I love recording and stuff on Wednesdays. I love talking to people a lot on Wednesdays. And Monday is so great for like divination and tarot reading. So I'll do a lot more readings on that day. And it's just, I love working with the elements in that way. I
Yeah,
think it's,
absolutely. Sorry.
I think it's really helpful. And I think it's a cool, like magical, I don't know, organization system.
Yeah, it feels like a cheat sheet, honestly, because it's like
Yeah.
these are the energies we're already like naturally attuned to. These are the energies that like we feel, and the Gregorian calendar is like not really as aligned with that. So
Yeah.
I made a commitment to myself, or I guess that I have started taking the days off for the new moons, the full moons, and then the Sabbats. So like May Day, Beltana, I didn't work. I won't be working on June 5th on the full moon eclipse. Like I'll probably still be like leading, and I'm gonna still be posting, but like taking the day off from social media on those days and just like being deep in ritual, it's like it feels so good. It feels, and like if I have the privilege of being able to plan my week, I'm like absolutely going to be taking off those days so I can like really
Yeah.
like honor the energies. So that's also been kind of an unexpected positive of COVID, while I have the time to really like honor those waxing and waning energies.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. There are some slight benefits
Mm-hmm.
to being slightly isolated during some of
Yeah.
this time.
Yeah.
Um, I love that. I love that you really take those kind of holy days off. This is something I've been thinking about myself because I find I'm not really giving all of my attention to it. I'm so worried about if I'm putting out enough work that day or
Mhm.
whatever, that I find that I've been very disconnected from some of those more magical days. And I've been thinking maybe I shouldn't be working on those
Yeah,
days.
right. And like, of course, I like, and that's the double-edged sword, right? It's like when this is our job, it's like we can't just like take off that day and not post, because it's like this is why we're like these are the things we're sharing about. So I think what I started doing, what I'm going to continue doing, is just like drafting the Instagram posts and like just posting that the day of, and like just like tweeting in the morning and like sharing information, putting links to my guides, and then just like logging off. And it's been helpful. It's like finding, that balance between being online and being of service, and also just like honoring the fact that social media can be so, it can be really draining. Like it really is like
Yeah.
people think that they have access to us. I mean, I can't speak for you if this doesn't resonate, but I know for me, it's like because I'm online so much, people expect me to like be on call, and I'm like, I can't. I
Yeah.
can't do that all the time. So, I'm
That
figuring it out.
definitely happens.
Yep.
Definitely happens to me too.
Yep.
I notice that a lot. Also, I had to go through and I just had to mute a whole bunch of words just on Twitter. I
Oh my
was
God.
just finding myself so frustrated and freaked out and
Yeah.
anxious and like angry about so many different like events that are just happening right now in the last week even.
Oh my God.
And
I feel that so hard.
yeah,
I like Twitter specifically. Instagram is like I've curated it. I don't follow people who like make me feel uncomfortable. I don't follow
yeah,
people who make me feel envious. Like I mute people if I don't really like their stuff. Like that for me, Instagram isn't really so like anxiety inducing, but Twitter, especially when this all started, I feel like I would read about, people's experiences with COVID, and it made me spiral more than anything else. And like, I had to like mute some words, and like at first I was just like going on for a little bit in the beginning of the day and the end of the day, and like I now, as soon as I see something that like makes me feel uncomfortable, I log off. But it's like, it really is like such a shadowy place where people are like sharing their despair, and it's like, that is the one that I'm like, I have to figure out how to not let that get me so in fear mode and stress mode, because like those are the energies that like are gonna make me more susceptible to getting sick. Like, taking care of your energy right now, and like blocking and muting and deleting, whatever, blocking those certain words, it's like, it really is like quote unquote self-care, because it's like taking care of your energy right now is vital. And like, I really just feel like, I can't shut off from what's going on, but if like, I'm trying to just be as stress free and as anxiety free as I can be, without like disconnecting and without, ignoring what's happening. Because it's like,
Yeah.
I can't be of service if I'm in like a place where like I am dread is filling my body, or I'm having an anxiety attack. So
Yeah, it's too much coming at you all at one time.
yeah.
Just, it's all coming at you so fast, especially on something like Twitter where it's these very short,
Yeah.
just all day long. But it really is an act of self-care to kind of just unplug from it for a few minutes and
Yeah.
like just exist in the real world.
Yep.
It's important.
And then,
We talk a lot about mental health here on the show, and I guess more specifically, the barriers that I came up against when I was seeking out treatment for my mental illness. I've also been very fortunate to share the strides that I've made since then and the support that I was able to find. Sharing that with you showed me just how important it is to be able to talk about what you're going through and to get support from someone or many someones who care. That's why I'm proud to have BetterHelp as one of the sponsors of the show. BetterHelp is an online service that can connect you with real licensed therapists who can be available to talk on your schedule and right where you are. They have 4 different ways to communicate: text, chat, phone, and video calls. And there are professionals with a wide range of specialties. So there's a really good chance that you can find someone who's perfect for you, all without having to leave home. Everything's confidential. If you ever feel like your counselor is just not the right fit for you, you can switch right away. There's no charge. This service is very affordable compared to in-person therapy, and they even offer financial aid for those who need it. It's okay to need help sometimes. You deserve to get better, and you can start that journey at betterhelp.com/fatfeministwitch to save 10% off your first month. That's betterhelp.com/fatfeministwitch. Wild magic grew out of a fascination for herbalism, a love of witchcraft, and a passion for creating natural, chemical-free products that honor our bodies and the earth. All items are handmade by Clarissa Camp with you and Mother Earth in mind. Made with love, purpose, and a sprinkle of magic, we craft intentional products for mindful witches who have a profound relationship with the planet. Our ritual bath salts and sprays are crafted with herbal and mineral ingredients to support your magical intentions, cleanse your sacred space, provide protective barriers, or just bring a beautiful chemical-free scent to your body or your home. So visit our website to learn more and check out our herbal-infused body butters, lip balms, and healing salves, because right now listeners of the Fat Feminist Witch podcast can get 20% off by going to thewildmagic.com/fatfeministwitch and entering promo code FatFemWitch20 at checkout. Something interesting that I saw in your book that it made me think a lot, and I've been thinking about it ever since, was you mentioned that the world went through a shift, like energy shifted in 2012.
mm-hmm.
And, this was kind of the beginning of the modern witch awakening.
Mm-hmm.
And I really felt that, that was the year I started buying witch books again. I started going to college, like I moved. It was huge. And I was like, wow, I wonder if that really is, something that everybody kind of felt.
Yeah.
So I was just kind of wondering what kind of shifts you experienced in 2012 that, have really affected your practice, your magical
Yeah.
practice?
Well, what a beautiful question. I also graduated. I graduated high school in 2012, so
Cool.
I went to college that year, and um I really feel like it was like the first time that I was standing in my own power. I grew up in the Bible Belt in Georgia, in Johns Creek, Georgia, and I went to school in South Carolina to USC, the other USC from the one in LA that I have to explain to people. I'm like, no, not this USC, the other USC. We're not the Trojans, we're the Cox. I just think it's so funny that like both USCs are the Trojans and the Cox. Like,
That's amazing.
so funny.
Oh, that's
like,
amazing.
a condom and a penis, love it. So I
That's awesome.
I have always, or for as long as I can remember, it has been important for me to be my own person, and one of the ways that I express this is through my style and through glamour. And as you can imagine, South Carolina is not the most fashion forward city or state, and Columbia, South Carolina is definitely not the most forward thinking place. And I made a decision when I was in my dorm, like when I was freshman in college, I lived in a dorm room, and I just decided that I would pretend that I was living in New York, and that I was in New York and I could just wear whatever I wanted, and I just started wearing whatever I wanted. Like, I remember like wearing like a bandeau and like a shirt that was like tied up and a long skirt to like my like afternoon whatever philosophy class or something, and just like wearing weird outfits. And I can see how from the outside that seems like really trivial, but what it really was a reclamation of my power and of myself, and of really devoting myself and dedicating myself to honoring my own self-expression, which I think is a really I think self-expression is a sacred act. It's like as above, so below. If we're created in the eyes of the divine, or if we're created in, as reflections of the divine, then like we have the right to express ourselves in a myriad of ways that we want to, just as the universe is expressing itself in nature and art and ourselves. So for me, that was a really big moment, and it really taught me to like be confident in myself, even if the world
Yeah.
didn't want me to. I would get so many side eyes from, old Republican men at the coffee shop, or people at the barber shop that I would go to, like to this like little, yeah, barber shop in South Carolina, where it was like just not, like I'm going in there getting half my head shaved. Like, who else is doing that? So I really feel like
Right.
that was a big part of my practice with witchcraft. And I definitely, I had an altar in my dorm room and really started committing myself to that. But that really was the time when my practice with both glamour and witchcraft started to weave together. It was like, I think the next year, 2013, I started doing outfit posts, or I had a fashion blog, and I would do outfit posts based around tarot cards, and I started writing about
Cool.
craft. And like, it was really when I started being more public about it and really claiming it as part of who I am, without, I mean, the shame is always, there's going to be a little part of that forever.
Yeah,
But I really started,
absolutely.
right? Like, you can't ever get rid of it. It's just like working through it and transmuting it. And um, I didn't even think about how that is related to 2012, but I really think it was this like this doorway, this portal to like being my fullest, most magical self. And yeah, it was just like a really big shift of independence. And it was the first time that I wasn't, my dad's a rabbi, and the congregation he had in the South in Georgia was really big. And the whole, like, I was always known as the rabbi's daughter, or one of the twins, because I have a twin sister. And
Yeah.
college was really the first time that I wasn't, the labels that I had were the ones that I chose, which was witch. And, it was like the first time that I really kind of came into my own. So it was definitely a portal for sure.
That is such a like almost like a beautiful metaphor for witchcraft. Really, it is coming into your own self, your own power, and finding your own power in a way that it wouldn't work for somebody else. You know, it's very specific to you.
Exactly.
It's personalized. It's self-expressive. Like,
Mhm.
what a cool, like way to see that change in yourself
Yeah,
and to
thank
show it off to other people, which is also really cool.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I definitely feel like, like something that I think is really important for people to remember is that like your practice with witchcraft has to work for you. It has to fit into your life. Doesn't matter like if it works for your friend because you're not your friend, and like once you find those moments of like, like those sacred little pieces of yourself that you can express and connect within the structure, the life you've already created, then it's like that's when you, in my eyes, really become a witch, because it's like not just something that you do on the full moon. It's something that you are. It's something that is woven deeply into your own life. And I just, yeah, for me, that's that's fashion. That's a big part of my life and my self expression. So thank you for that compliment. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, it's really neat. Like I said, I've been, ever since I read that, it was just like one little sentence. I was like, that really was such a big year for so many people that I know. It
Yeah.
was just, we all changed quite a bit
Yeah.
right around that time, even though we're all different ages and live in different places. It's just, I don't think I really noticed how big of a deal it was before.
Yeah, it's like
Interesting.
2012, and I just took a class on prophecies, and have been listening. I was listening to this podcast, and it's like 2012 was a doorway, but like 2020 has like the other piece of that, and I definitely feel it. I feel like 2012 was like
Yeah.
the door opening, and now we're stepping through that door, and it's like this is what we've been freaking working for like the past like near decade. Like so many of
Yeah.
us have been like rising up, and there's been this huge movement of witches, because it's like we need as many as possible right now to like shift things and to change and transform. So it's really interesting kind of seeing
I
those, the way those cycles kind of like lead into like each other, because it really was like, obviously it wasn't the end of the world, but it was the beginning of kind of like a new timeline.
Yeah, it really was. It really, really was. And I really agree that like right now we're seeing this next like swell in witchcraft. Like I feel like every day someone is like, oh, I just found your podcast. Like I didn't even think I was a witch. And like I've been exploring it for like 3 days now. And like this is so me. It happens
Oh,
almost every day lately.
I love
So many people
that.
are finding their way to magic and witchcraft. And it's very exciting.
It's so exciting, and I'm just, it feels like such a privilege and such an honor to be able to like lead people back into their own magic. It's like I'm not like a guru. I don't know the answers. All I am is like hopefully leading you into your own self exploration, and it's just like it just makes me so happy. Like I don't fuck with gatekeeping, and I know you're the same. That it's like witchcraft is for anybody who feels called to it, and there's not,
Yeah.
not everybody's gonna feel called to it, but like if you do and you explore it, and it like I remember the feeling that I had when I was a baby witch, and I will never forget it. It was such a knowing, like a soul understanding of coming home and finding a familiar piece of myself. And still to this day, over like 13 or 14 years later, I've never felt that before. So just like being able to be that for somebody else, and like seeing all these people coming back to this like ancient practice, ancient understanding that like we all have had in our past lives. It's just such a beautiful, such an incredible thing to come out of such darkness.
Yeah, it really is. Like I say it, sarcastically all the time, but it really is like such an interesting time to
Yeah.
be alive. There's so much change that we can
Yeah.
really see happening like every single day. It's scary, but
Yeah.
it's also very exciting.
Yeah, right. It's like we're literally living through history right now. Like what we do matters, and we have the opportunity to like, especially as witches, to visualize and hold space for the future that we want. And I really feel like, yeah, like in the future, like my dream world, it's like I was talking to my friend about this, and I was like, I don't want a world with jails. I don't want a world with detention centers. I don't want a world where, like kids are in cages, and like I want love for everybody. And she's like, yeah, like in the future, everybody's going to know their birth chart. Everybody's going to be able to do rituals and cast spells. And I was like, yes, that is what I want to move to. Everybody has that understanding of themselves. And because of that, they're not projecting and scared of other people. And there's an energy.
Yeah.
We can hold humans to the standard of transformation and change. And it just like, as if we can just keep that perspective and like continue fighting the injustices, like it'll happen eventually.
Yeah, I feel very hopeful, honestly. Even with all the scary stuff happening, when I see people online going, you know what, I'm a witch, and this is something that I've realized about myself, and it's something that's always been there. I get this little sliver of hope, like, oh, we're going to be okay because there's, there's new witches coming out every day. They're going to save the planet for us. But it's very hopeful to see how personalized magic has become in witchcraft, and how many different perspectives we can see on witchcraft. Like, I learn new stuff every day, and I've been doing this for so long. It's exciting. It's a cool
It is
time.
so exciting. I love being, it's like I'm never gonna get to a point where I'm like, yep, I know it all, I'm done. It's like never, that's never gonna happen. Like,
It's never gonna happen.
it's exciting to know that this is like an adventure that we gotta have for the rest of our lives.
Oh, how exciting is that?
Yeah, I love being a witch. I love it so much. I love it so much. I'm so glad that I have ritual and magic, especially right now. Like, I
Yeah.
cannot imagine not having faith in something, not having tools to like work with this. But it's like, this is like, I'm like, I've never felt more equipped for such darkness, which is a really strange realization.
Yeah. Wow, that is wild. That is like kind of wild to think about, but you're right.
Yeah.
Like, at no other time in my life, before I started working with witchcraft more deeply, could I have really handled this as well as I am, and still felt hopeful. I didn't know enough about myself to feel comfortable with myself stuck like this all the time.
Oh, that's so beautiful. So beautiful.
It's neat. It's it's such a big thought, but it's so beautiful to think of. I love magic and I love witchcraft, and I'm excited about it.
Me too. I don't think I'll ever stop. Like, I keep falling in love with it in new ways every day, and like also just like being able to be proud of myself and being like, you're so fucking strong, like look at you, and like having that kind of just like self-awareness and that ability to just like be proud of myself and then like like proud of the strength that I have of getting through this. It's just like it feels good to be able to like recognize those little victories.
Yeah, absolutely. One thing I've always liked about you online is that you don't shy away from how like sensitive you are. Like, all of that or that water element stuff, the big heart, the sensitivity, the love, like all of that is a real source of strength in all of your work and your like your presence online. And it's very like empowering as a fellow like super sensitive person. It's like very empowering to see, especially like books like this tell you that being soft and being sensitive and being in touch with your emotions is like a source of strength and power. Like, how different is that from the way the world has been working? It's like revolutionary.
Oh my God, thank you so much. I really, really appreciate that. And I'm really glad that it's received even through the internet because it, like, I am I am extremely sensitive. I'm extremely tender and, like, definitely a romantic, albeit not a conventional one. And I really, like, I recognize, like, I'm very privileged. Like, I have, parents who love me and who love each other and like grew up, like recognizing the privilege and being told how important gratitude is and really having that be like a cornerstone of my life. And one of the things I'm really thankful for with my mom is that she always told my sister and I that crying is important and that when we cry, we let things out. And she really encouraged us to cry when we needed to cry. And
Yeah.
I definitely this year really have the intention of owning my softness and owning my sensitivity because it has been something that I have, I guess, shied away from in the past, or I have, I've had to, I'm a small human, like I'm 5'6", but I'm like a pretty tiny person, and like just really felt like growing up, people underestimated my strength and really just thought of me as this like puny person, and because of that, I really had to like, allow my Scorpio moon and Jupiter to like come out and like tell people, no, I'm tough, and like I definitely like am tough, and I definitely, you know, appreciate that side of myself. But like after like really, I guess more than anything, proving that to myself, of like recognizing my strength and of recognizing how much that was a part of me, like I've been able to lean into this kind of softness. And like, you know, like I said before, like I'm not a guru, and I'm not, you know, like a person who knows it all. And I really think it's important to be like authentic with who I like, the way that I express myself to people who follow my work. And I really think it's important to share, you know, my struggles, because like I'm human, and like I do get anxious, and I do get, you know, really sad, and I do feel lonely, and like I just know that if it's something that I'm going through, like other people are going through it too. And I just think it's so important to like lead by example, and also like walk the walk if you're talking the talk. And
Yeah.
for me, that means, you know, like being honest when I'm feeling sad or when I'm feeling sensitive. And like I really do feel like, you know, as much as freedom and self-expression and gratitude are cornerstones of my self and my practice, so is love, and so is having this open heart. And like love has definitely been something I have a not like difficult relationship with, because I do feel like I have so much love, and like that I am in love with life, and I have amazing friends, but like I haven't been in love. And like that has been something that has in the past caused me anxiety and insecurity. And just like being honest with that and being transparent and like sharing my own journey, like I just wanted to help others feel more validated in their own experiences, because especially in this society, we're told that our value is, you know, when we're in partnership, and that when we're in love, and that like romantic
Yeah.
relationships are everything. And like I know you have like a kind of same but different experience with that, but it's like finding my own love for myself and finding my love for the divine, like it's just been so important to me. And maintaining both an independent and soft, tender heart. So I just like, you know, I really just, I don't want people to feel ashamed of their emotions. And like, obviously, self accountability is important. And like, I, I do think
Of
there's
course.
a level of self awareness that comes with it, but it's just like, I don't know. I love love, and I love the ways in which the universe loves me. And I just think it's so important to share the things that aren't, you know, so palatable, I guess, so easy to digest, because like that's life, baby, that's showbiz, baby.
Yeah, actually that's been really great, because yeah, I do have an also, just, I don't know, I call it like an odd relationship with love. Like I love love, I believe in love. I'm also like a super romantic person. Like my my like all my platonic like girlfriends, they're like, how does every time we hang out end up being like this super romantic date that we're on? I'm like, I don't know, it just happens.
I literally
I end up turning everything into like, all of a sudden we're eating at her favorite restaurant and like watching the sunset over like a lagoon. And she's like, how did we get here? I'm like, I
literally
don't
that's
know.
like exactly how I feel. I feel like all my friends and I just go on like cute dates, like we'll go to the garden, or we'll like it
Yeah.
really is just like, I'm like, this is like and it's so cool, because it's like I don't feel like I need to like I don't there's nobody that's gonna quote unquote like fill up my cup. Like there's nobody that's gonna like make me a whole person, because I'm already whole, and I already have these amazing relationships. And it's like I don't need to settle for shit.
Yeah. Yeah. And lately, like, that's what I'm really like thinking about a lot and realizing, like, do I really need, someone else? I clearly like find romance on my own, and I create it on my own, and I know that I feel love, and like, does it really need to look exactly like everyone else's relationship? And it just doesn't.
No,
And
exactly.
yeah, and like magic and witchcraft has been a really cool way to explore that, especially with something like the water element, where it's so tied in with like intuition and
Yeah.
psychic ability and emotion all tied together. It's been like, yeah, that's like super powerful to feel love and have an open heart. Let's
It
let's all try that.
really is. It's like unfortunately revolutionary, I feel like, to like be
Yeah.
aligned with love and to like allow that to flow out of you, because there's such like I don't know. I'm just like an eternal optimist. Like I just like seeing the silver lining with everything, and like it people like won't aren't necessarily receptive to that and aren't necessarily receptive to love, but I think that a lot more people are, and that it really is something that like if you embody it, it touches other people and it reminds them of their own heart, and like I think that's just like on its own just so worth it.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. I agree. Um, so where are we at? Okay. So, before we get going, before we wrap up our conversation, is there anything else that you want to share about Bewitching the Elements? Something that you want people to take from the book or to get excited about in their, looking forward to the book?
Ooh, what a beautiful question. I feel like if once you understand, like I kind of talked about this before, but like once you understand your own relationship with the elements, it really is just like a language. And it's like, I know for me, like it helps me contextualize my feelings. It helps me understand the way I connect to the world. And it really like helps me find balance and really like lean into like whatever I need in that moment. And like your relationship to the elements should be personal, and it should be something that makes you happy. And like, you don't need to do all the exercises or relate to all the parts of the book. Just find what inspires you and find what touches your heart and find what like wakes you up, and just like lean into that. And if there's an element you don't like, or a part of your birth chart you don't like a certain placement, like make the time to work with that element, because I promise you, you will like it will help you just be like the most fully expressed person you can be. Like,
Yeah.
the hardest to love pieces of ourselves are the ones that we need to give more love to. So it's just like use the elements to help you like see yourself in a new light and appreciate those part of yourself, those pieces of yourself that you might that might be a little bit more difficult to love. So, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. That's such a beautiful way to put it. It really is just very enlightening when you look at your relationship with the elements and see which ones you rarely connect with or rarely think about, or that just don't. Why is that? If
Yeah.
this is the building blocks of life, like why don't I have all the blocks? Where can I find more of this balance?
Mm.
It's an enlightening experience to go through the elements individually like that.
Thank you. Also, like, I think that something that I have to remember is like, there's, this idea that like we're some things we do are good and some things we do are bad, and we like hold judgment for ourselves for feeling like anger or judgment or like whatever it is. But it's like the elements show us that like everything exists in polarity. Everything has, this like balance. Like we don't the ocean can be so calm and so serene and so supportive, or she can be a fucking tsunami and cause like a
Yeah.
tidal wave or like sink a ship. But we don't call Mother Nature evil. We don't think that she's doing something wrong. Like just like air can be a soft breeze or a tornado. Like all of the elements have this kind of like, quote unquote more positive expression and more negative expression. I don't even like limiting them to that. They're just, this totality of what they are. And it's like when we see that in nature, like that's a reflection of ourselves, and like having that empathy for ourselves and having like that love for ourselves, even when we are more in, like the more chaotic realm of those elements. It's just like we don't call Mother Nature evil for her fullest expression. And it's like we can really give
Yeah.
ourselves some love when we see that in our own life.
Yeah, absolutely. And that is even how we respond when Mother Nature, expresses herself in the ways that are scarier. We build that environment back up. We,
Mm,
make sure that the water is safe and clean again. We kind of heal
yeah.
that part that was affected by it in nature. So we should really do that with
Oh,
ourselves and with each
I love
other.
that. That's such a beautiful way to put it. Absolutely.
Oh, that's lovely. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show today. I'm so excited that we finally got to like actually talk. This
Me
was really fun.
too. You asked such beautiful questions. I really like this was like
Thanks.
one of my favorite interviews. So thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, it was truly my pleasure, and I really loved the book, and I'm really excited to like try out even more of the exercises and like dive a little deeper into some of the elements that I found I was a little disconnected from. So I'm pretty excited about it.
Oh my God, thank you so much for the beautiful compliment.
Thank you so much for joining me today, witches, for my interview with Gabby Herstik. As I said at the beginning of the show, you can find her at GabrielaHerstik.com and on Twitter and Instagram as Gabby Herstik. And I will put those links in the description for this podcast. I hope you check out Bewitching the Elements. I really loved it. I thought it was really great, and it's good to explore these elements more in depth. Sometimes I think we take the elements for granted, they're so simple, but that's really what makes them great. So I hope you enjoyed this interview, and I hope you enjoy Bewitching the Elements, because I'm pretty sure you're going to get it. If you want to find out more about the Fat Feminist Witch podcast, you can do that by going to thefatfeministwitch.com. You can also find me across social media by searching for The Fat Feminist Witch. I'm usually the one that comes up. If you want to support the podcast, you can do that by going to my website and clicking the button Buy Me a Coffee to make a small one-time donation. You can also go to my Patreon page, patreon.com/thefatfeministwitch, to join the private monthly membership group. If you have a witchy product or service that you would like to advertise here on the show, you can find out how to do that at advertisecast.com/thefatfeministwitch. But the best way for you to support me and the show right now is by pre-ordering the Grimoire Journal, a place to record spells, rituals, recipes, and more, which comes out in June. I hope you all have a fantastic weekend, and I will see you all in July.